Hi, and welcome to the Gadget Talk channel, where we do reviews and how-tos on action cams, audio and video tools, and, as in this video, amateur radio products. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I hope you do, and please click the thumbs up button below the video if you find it helpful. I really appreciate it. Now, sometimes I receive items from Radioddity to review, and I make sure you know that going in. However, in this case, I purchased this little HT with my own money. When you use the affiliate links in the description below the video, you help when making these purchases, so thank you. At first glance, the GS-5B handy talkie looks pretty much like most of the other little Chinese handheld radios, except maybe for the bright orange color. But looks can be deceiving. Before we look at the radio and programming tasks, let's take a second to review a couple of the radio's unique features. First, it has a dual watch system that allows you to monitor both the A and B channels. Now, that's not too unique, but by having two push-to-talk buttons, you're able to access either channel without changing channel priorities. Next, the color display includes an S-meter function that provides easy access to the signal strength of your incoming signal. S-meters are common, but you seldom see them on HTs. Another nice feature of the GS-5B is you're able to charge it using 12 volts at the charging cradle or using a USB 5-volt supply, either at the cradle or directly to the battery. This feature is growing in popularity, and the GS-5B is leading the pack right now. By having a USB charge capability, this makes the radio very suitable for outdoor activities such as backpacking, camping, or a long day supporting a community event. Portable solar panels such as the one I recently reviewed on this channel, or a power pack, can keep you powered up when away from AC power. The last thing I want to mention before looking at the radio is its Bluetooth programming ability. You can download traditional customer programming software from Radioddity, but you can also download an app for your smartphone that allows you to access your radio's programming choices and channel assignments to make changes or additions without all the key clicks necessary when using the radio's faceplate keys. Well, with that as a bit of a tease, let's look at the GS-5B. So this is the box that the GS-5B from Radioddity comes in. Let's take a look at what's inside. So here is the belt clip that comes in the kit, as well as a wrist strap. I have developed kind of a habit of using wrist straps. It gives me a little more security of the radio when I have it in my hand. I don't feel like I'm going to drop it. And then, of course, you can see that the belt clip has the screw holes here. The screws are mounted in the radio, and the belt clip connects to the radio itself, not to the battery. I'll show you that in just a minute. One of the things that Radioddity includes with the radio is a programming cable, which is pretty handy. These things are always kind of a crapshoot, and so it depends on the drivers that you have in your computer, and if you need to go fishing for drivers, that sometimes can be a problem, although Windows 10 is supposed to automatically find those drivers. I haven't used this cable yet, so we'll find out when we come to programming the radio. It comes with a charging cradle and a wall wart style charger. So if we look at the bottom of this, you see that the charger is a 12-volt input or a 5-volt input via a USB cable, and then it has an 8.4-volt output, which means that if you're charging this with a USB cable, there's a voltage adjustment circuit here in the charge cradle to get it up to the 8.4 that you need to charge this 2-cell LiPo. So that's really handy to have. Now, the last thing in terms of accessories that comes with the radio is a secret agent style earphone and push-to-talk button. It has the two prong style connectors to the radio, sometimes referred to as K1s or Kenwood style connectors. And then it has this transparent audio tube type earplug that runs over your ear and into your ear with a push-to-talk button there that you can keep in your sleeve or down on your body if you need to operate the radio with a little bit more discreetness. So the radio itself is this nice bright orange radio. The antenna does come off it. Let me unscrew that here for just a minute. It's a multi-band antenna that I hope you can see has got the socket end on the antenna, and then the plug end is buried there in the antenna connector of the radio. Here on the top is the on-off button, and it gives you the volume indicators there, plus a little LED that illuminate when you're transmitting. The screen, and then across the front of the radio is got entering into menu mode, making selections with the up and down buttons there in the center of that top row, and then exiting menu if you need to. You can type in frequencies using the keypad, as well as access various menu items. And so it's pretty typical of keypads for this kind of radio. On this side is the cover for that earphone and microphone that I just showed you, or for the programming cable. And it's kind of a rubberized thing that fits fairly tight, snaps together, and that helps with the rainproof status that this radio has. It's not submersible, but they claim it's rainproof. And so if you're using this, in an emergency situation, if you're part of an ACES or RACES team in terms of community involvement in emergencies, having a radio that has some water resistance is certainly a good thing. Now on this side, we've got a couple of things. One is the top button, which will turn on the flashlight. To turn on the flashlight, you press that button, and the radio has to be on for you to do that. I kind of like this idea of a flashlight on the bottom because, if you were holding the radio, listening and talking in a situation and trying to look at a map or trying to look at a communications log of some kind, having the light on the bottom to show where you're working is a really cute idea, and I think very practical one as well. You press the button again, and it goes from a red and white or kind of blue and red to give you a flash. And then you press it a third time, and it turns off. There is a dual watch function to this radio we'll talk about a little later, but it's got a push-to-talk button here, and then a second push-to-talk button there, so that the radio channel or frequency that is in the upper register on the display is controlled with this push-to-talk, the upper push-to-talk, and the radio frequency or channel in the lower display is managed by this number 2 push-to-talk button. So that makes it pretty handy. You could have a repeater on one channel and your event channel on another, and then you could participate in conversations in both depending on which push-to-talk button that you are going to use. So let's look on the back, and you can see here are the screws for the belt clip, and then this is the battery here. And it's interesting because the battery screws in. Again, that's for that waterproof rating that it has, that rain or splash proof rating. And so you can use a penny, sometimes you can use your thumbnail to unscrew the radio, but it gives it a nice tight connection. So the last thing that's really cool about the battery is it's got a USB connection in the back of the battery itself. In this case, it's a USB micro. And what's neat is that you don't need the charging cradle. You can just plug it into a USB cable in your vehicle or with a power pack and so forth and charge the battery directly. Now, the other thing that I like about this radio, and we'll get into some of this more when we go through the menus, is the fact that it's got an S meter. And so you can give a good signal report. You can see the level of the signal that you're getting. These kind of things are really common in, desktop HF radios and so forth, but you often don't find them with a little handy talkie. So that's a look at the radio itself. Next, let's work quickly through the menus. I can enter the menu mode by pressing menu. And so you can see then I've got the radio set, Vox level, settings, CTCS and DCS, the submenu, channel storage. I can search for frequencies, turn the Bluetooth off, which we'll talk about when we talk about Bluetooth programming, and then about, so it'll give you, the hardware and firmware version and that kind of thing. If I go to radio set, I just select the menu, and now I can use the up and downs to scroll through the options here. So we've got squelch level, transmitter power, bandwidth, just a whole bunch of stuff to get out of the menu. I can press exit. If I go down to, say, my CTCSS or DCS menu, I can press menu, and then I can set my receive CTCSS or my receive DCS. To make a choice, I can press, and then I can turn it on or off. And then if I turn it on, I'm basically going to cycle through all the different CTCSS choices I have. So that'll give me the tone to let me get into repeaters and so forth. And so the menus work pretty much the same as you expect. Let's take a quick look at radio programming using both the Bluetooth function and the CPS. So let's take a quick look at the Bluetooth programming portion here of this GS-5B. And you can see here the app is up on my phone, and we need to connect it to the radio. So I have Bluetooth turned on with the radio, and I'll press connect. It shows the walkie-talkie. And it's connected. And then if I select device, I can pick basically a profile. And right now I have the Phoenix Basic program loaded into my phone. I'm going to cancel that, because when you just get started, what you'll do is you'll hit read from the phone. And so, well, let's do that. So my phone, the little green LED on the top is blinking. The screen shows program, and you can see it's loading up. So I have now the programming for my phone, and this makes it really pretty easy. You're familiar with Android programming or Apple programming, slide numbers here to turn things on or off, to allow or disallow, and so forth. So let's look at the features here at the top. Let's start with optional features. And here are all those menu items that are buried there in the menu. And there are just the things to set up the radio, push-to-talk IDs, auto locks, sending a tone, the ever-popular Roger beep, and all of these things. You can make these choices simply and easily going through the menus. When you have a down arrow like this, you can have choices for these things, and so it's just real easy, just with the touch of a finger, to be able to make changes or make the selections for your device parameters. When we move into frequency mode, there are just the basic things that you can apply to the frequency that you have selected here. When I first started, this current frequency was just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it had a little red warning under it. And when I had tried to save things using this save button down here at the lower right, it wouldn't save because it said it had a frequency error. And so if you get that error, go back up to this frequency mode and put in a valid frequency. and that'll get you past that particular error. It took me a couple of minutes to figure out what was going on there. And then with channel information, that works really well because you're able to do those things that you need to do to set up channels. And so perhaps one of the drawbacks is you have to pick your channel every time you make a change, and they're all listed and they continue until the end of the channel selections. But in this case, so if I want to see my channel 1 is a 2-meter call, the VHF call, so it's 146.52. The transmit frequency is 146.52 as well. There are no TCSS or DCS codes assigned to that. It's in my scan list. I can transmit on it and so forth. So all of these things are listed right here. And then if I wanted to go to, say, channel 10, my channel 10 is a repeater up in Payson, Arizona. The receive frequency, the frequency that I see on my radio is 147.39. The transmit frequency is 147.99. So it's a positive 0.6 megahertz. And so use repeater book to get these informations. If you're out traveling, load it up and you're really good to go. There's really not anything to it. Again, we can apply the CTCSS codes, scans, and so forth. And then when we're done making the changes here to any of the channels that we want, then we can just hit save. We're going to replace the existing setting, which is the Phoenix Basic setting. I haven't made any changes, but just to demonstrate to you how we're going to do this. Now, if you made a bunch of changes, you can give it a new name up here with this option, but we're just going to replace the current setting. You can see it times out. It says save successful. And so we're good there. So we can move out of the settings tab down here. We can go over to the set tab. This really just has, some about things to it. There's really nothing here that I found that I want to mess with. And then I can move back over to my home tab and I can select my device. I can pick Phoenix Basic, which is that profile that I just programmed and saved. And then now I can hit write and I can send it back to the radio. So again, the radio is blinking. The program icon is on the screen of the radio, and you can see that it's working its way through and you may have heard the radio say welcome channel mode. And now that I finished writing, the radio is back. I've got my UHF call on channel 2, so I know that's what it was. That's what it's showing now on the radio. And then the Bluetooth connection is now broken. So if you wanted to load it again or do something else, you'd have to reconnect. But at this point, that's how the Bluetooth programming works, and it's really pretty handy. My next step is going to go to the radio and turn the Bluetooth off just to save some battery power. So here's a look at the customer programming software that you can download from Radioddity. I've got it in the full screen mode. Otherwise, you can have it in the windowed mode. But the window has a fixed size. So just be aware that you may have to scroll around a little bit if you go down to that mode. The program looks like most other CPS with a variety of columns that you can deal with here and so forth. The thing that we want to do when we get started first, though, is use the proper cable. I'm using an FTDI cable. I've got it plugged into the USB port of my computer and the radio is on. So we're going to start with settings. We're going to choose the port. On my computer, it's port 6 that's associated with this driver, so we'll click OK. Next, we're going to go up here to read. These various drop-downs have these same icons, but we'll just use the easy icon. We ask it to read. It says ready, so let's start. And so we can see that the program is now reading. The little green light on the radio is flashing, and the icon on the screen of the radio says program. So now we can see that we have everything that we have listed in our radio right here, which makes it really handy. And so This is our channel information. We can move that here a little bit. And so these are the channels that we have available, the various settings that we have made. We can name the channels. We have the frequencies, CTCSS codes, and so forth are all listed here. Now, the one thing I wanted to point out to you is if you want to add channels, you're certainly able to do that. But if you start with the first box, which I was tempted to do, there's nothing happening. So what's up with that, right? But you have to start over here with an actual frequency. So let's just duplicate one of the frequencies that's here already, 146.8 thousand. And when you do that, then the rest of these will activate and fill in, and then you can make the changes you need, either by using drop-down boxes like we have here, or typing in actual frequencies and so forth. So that's just one of the little quirks of this software, is that the frequency probably should have been in column 1, but it's in column 2, and that's where you need to start. So we're gonna get out of this. I don't want that. And then as you just saw, to cancel that, delete the frequency in the receive frequency column, and the rest of the information will drop out. Now, the other things, if we go up to program, we can see that here's the read and write data. If we want to edit, we're editing channel settings right now, or channel information, but we can also then open up the optional features dialog box, which is all those other radio settings that you're going to want to use. And so they're all listed here. Most of them are dealt with drop-down boxes. And so you can see I've got channel A display set as channel and frequency. If I wanted to do that as channel and name, I could certainly do that. So all of these things are adjustable here in the optionals feature menu. When I'm done, we can close it out. And then when we're done making changes to the radio, we can, what I would recommend doing then is saving this. And so I have a OneDrive here. I've got most of my images in a folder called Chirp Images, even though they're not all Chirp images. And I've got it in the GS-5B. So to save this image, I'm just going to type in today's date. So it's going to go 06/25/2021. We're going to use this data file, and we're going to save. And so now I've got a copy of all the changes that I've made on my OneDrive, so I can access it when I'm out and about. And I've got it saved now, so now I'm going to write it back to the radio. So again, I get the start dialog. The radio says program. The lights are flashing. You can see the progress bar moving across the screen. Tells me I've been successful. The radio rebooted. It's back to channel 1. And so I can cancel out of this, and I'm basically done. I can quit the program, and so now you can see I can use either this or the Bluetooth to accomplish those same tasks. Last, let's do a quick power test to see what you can expect from the GS-5B. So let's take a quick look at what we get for power outputs. Most of us are interested in the high output, so that's what we'll test. And we'll take a look at high at both 2 meters and up in the 70 centimeter band. We'll see what we get. So this is 2 meter high output. See there, it's at about 4.1 or 4.2 watts of power there on the watt meter there. So that's pretty good for a radio that's advertised for 5 watts. That's pretty respectable. Let's go up to a 440 channel and see what we get here in the 440 band. Again, about 4.1 or 4.2. So that is very good for this little radio. It comes in really close to that 5 watts that's advertised. And it's about a watt or so better than many of the radios that I have tested. So that's very good. And just FYI, I'm transmitting into a dummy load attached to the back of this meter. I found the GS-5B a versatile FM HT whose features set it apart from many of the basic dual-band HTs in the market. Its splash-proof water resistance rating, downward-facing flashlight, and bright orange color scheme clearly indicates that it's being marketed to the outdoor or the MCOM crowd. Actual power output is above average for radios in this price range, with measured output at about 4.1 watts. I was able to hit repeaters 25 to 30 miles away from my back patio. I really like the S-meter on the display, its dual push-to-talk buttons, USB charge capability, and Bluetooth programming option. You'll probably want to spend some time with the radio's manual. There's a lot of good stuff there, and it's pretty well written, as is often the case with Radioddity manuals. For example, to limit the number of key openings in the case, the menu and exit keys are used for mode switching and band switching, instead of a separate A or B mode key. That's not obvious, so a quick scan of the manual will help in that regard. Additionally, the manual lists all the menu items along with the submenus they're linked to. As for the cons, the set came with a programming cable. I think it's probably a prolific chip based on the cable, and I couldn't get it to work. In fact, while checking the on-driver installations, I happened to grab the radio and found it was really hot. Something bad was happening, and I quickly turned it off and unplugged the cable. Now, I have an FTDI cable for these kinds of radios, and after my HT cooled off, it worked fine with that cable. In fact, the radio's product page on the Radioddity website lists an optional FTDI cable as an accessory for about $15. If you don't have one, it's worth the money and works with a bunch of other radios in this category. As you saw, the CPS is pretty typical for these kinds of radios. It has a couple of quirks, such as starting in column 2 when adding new channels. Additionally, while it can import CSV files from programs like Excel, it can't import directly from sources such as RepeaterBook. I ended up keying in my channel information, but since I normally don't keep dozens of channels in my radios, it didn't take long. Clearly, the updates using the Bluetooth programming app will be easier if you're traveling or using ad hoc frequencies for an event. I'd recommend saving your radio's data file to something like OneDrive, Dropbox, or a Google Drive so you can access it either via your phone app or your desktop. While getting the feel of the Bluetooth app, I accidentally deleted the radio's programming, and I was glad that I had a recent file to fall back on. While a bit more expensive than the ultra-low price ham HTs, the GS-5B has a solid feature set and good performance for a new ham or an experienced ham with MCOM or outdoor interests. Again, if you found this video helpful, please click the thumbs up button below the video and subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel. Click the bell icon to be notified when I post new videos. 73, and thanks for watching.